Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prastayate
Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prastayate
Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prastayate
Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prastayate
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana
Hare Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sade Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta
Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana
Hari Bol Krishna
Gopala Govinda Rama
Hari Bol Krishna
Madana Mohana
Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana
Gopala Govinda Rama
Bol Krishna
Madana Mohana
Hari Bol Krishna
Gopala Govinda Rama
Hari Bol Krishna
Madana Mohana
Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana
Gopala Govinda Rama
Hari Bol Krishna
Madana Mohana
Hari Bol Krishna
Gopala Govinda Rama
Hari Bol Krishna
Madana Mohana
Haribol Krishna,
Ananda Paramahamsa.
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namine, Ora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prestaya Te.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namine, Ora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prasayate.
Haribol Krishna.
In one's existence in this body, all of us in this material world, we're continually searching for happiness and a stable foundation for security. A stable foundation for security. And the medium of how we pursue that happiness and security, a stable platform wherein connected with this is peacefulness of the mind, the heart. But if one, somewhere along the line, comes to the point, he asks this question within himself. He asks, am I really achieving or in the right direction of what I'm longing for? As days goes on, this search for happiness, this search for a stable security can be addressed and experienced when one follows the path of the descending method coming from the Supreme Person himself, the Supreme Person. In a truest sense, we're searching for someone to take shelter, to follow without any worries. And that person is the Supreme Person, the cause of all causes, the Supreme Purifier, the Lord of Love. And He's a person. So the process we follow, the descending method, begins when one comes in contact with the representative of that Supreme Person. How is it achieved? It is achieved through sitting down and hearing, listening from the wisdom that is teaching, the instruction. And what is that all about? When one is not in a situation, is not really realized and cannot really actualize and engage in what is transcendental because of our conditioning in this world, we identify with the body. We follow the dictates of the mind. And what is the mind all about? It's the subtle energy wherein all the experience we had experience. It's there. So the spiritual master gives us an activity centered around what will be the redirection of our focus. When one is not understanding his true eternal transcendental nature as different from matter and engrossed, but he can appreciate that, yes, there's something wrong in my life, Every time I search and engage in activities to experience that stability, it seems I am not achieving it, or I'm not even coming near it. So the wisdom that our spiritual master is teaching is about our true transcendental nature and what has encumbered us that now must be clear and purified, not by our own power, but by God Himself, the Supreme Purifier. It's very hard to be focused in the right direction, wherein our love, our heart, our life can be in a stable, transcendental, achievement of the spirit soul, who is now free from following the mind. So in this age of Kali Yuga, or the age of quarrel and confusion, wherein all of us were so engrossed, it's very hard to redirect the mind because we have identified with the body, and the pursuance of what we do to achieve happiness is through the dictates of the mind and the urge of the senses. Because what we have experienced for so long is a search for activities connected with trying to fulfill and follow the senses and fulfill and achieve the desire in the mind. So we must understand and realize the difference between us, this body, the mind, the desires, which are continually there bombarding us, giving us impetus to follow, because we are longing for happiness. Because the nature of the spirit soul is joyful. But when he or she is in the wrong direction, the search for happiness is focused upon what we call an abyss, limited, but our happiness we long for is unlimited. It can only be satiated and be perfected when it's harmony with a relationship with the Supreme Person, the Supreme Purifier, and the cause of all causes, the Lord of Love. So when we are not in that situation, we don't know what love is. We don't know how to relate to the Supreme Person. In short, we are at the loss how to be focused in the right direction. So, when we come in contact with the bona fide spiritual master, he gives us instruction how we can redirect the mind. Because the mind that we're following in for so long is focused upon this world. That's why we have this gross body. And everything revolves around trying to fulfill this search for joy and happiness, wherein we're looking in the wrong direction because we are a different energy from the mind and matter. There are two energies, matter and life. When we speak of life, it is me, the person. And when we speak of material energy, it's this dead matter. But when we are ignorant and have no understanding, our focus will be upon the search for happiness, and we waste so much time. And in this endeavor, all of us will be a failure because we are in the wrong direction. So when one comes in contact with the spiritual master, for so long we follow the mind. But now, he gives us the process that we can redirect the mind, to control the mind. And who will do it? God Himself, simply by following the instruction of the spiritual master. And in this age, we must have this medium or a process or activities that we should engage in connection with the Supreme Purifier. And the best and what is just leave the kid, he cannot understand. Just let him go. Disturbs people's focus, you know. In this path we follow, when we come in contact with the bona fide spiritual master, he gives us a process or a method wherein we can focus ourselves, now guided by God. And the mind can be redirected because through connection with God and our focus in doing His will, then we can have this one-pointed focus to do the will of God. And even though the mind grumbles, it's so hard, it can be redirected. We can draw the mind away from matter through the Maha Mantra. Maha Mantra, the great chanting for deliverance. And it's connected with the instruction of the spiritual master, how we can be guided. So there are activities we should do to be able to redirect the mind. Number one is about what sound we hear. The sound we hear. So prior to coming in contact with the spiritual master, the sound we hear has been the direction of the mind. It's all about this material world. It's all about a redirection of what is natural for us, the search for happiness. And the mind, which is the reason we're so engrossed, pulls us, directs us in a way that we are at a loss. So the benefit of having a bona fide spiritual master is that we now have one master to follow. So I like to reiterate something because there's a stigma between when we tell to be the servant of God. Because in this world we can see that servant means slavery. Look at those people during the time of Moses. And even here in the Philippines, we were brought up, for almost 500 years, we were subjugated by the Spaniard masters, who have colonized the Philippines, and they teach something, that's that's really made everybody put in confusion, because those individuals who are teaching about the Supreme Person, about what is transcendental, are not really bona fide spiritual master, and they use the process that Lord Jesus Christ is teaching to love the Supreme Person, and they put forward this bizarre teaching of fear in people's heart. And they put themselves as the representative of God. So their will is the will of God. So for 500 years, we were conditioned in that setup. But if you look closely, the activities they do is all about materialism. It's all about control. So now, we have this opportunity to be focused and be in harmony with the Supreme Controller. The reason we speak about our true transcendental position is that it is about spirituality, about service, because we will always be serving in any way. Either we are conditioned by the three modes of material nature, we are engrossed, because our true transcendental nature is we're eternally the loving child, the loving servant of God. So in ignorance, the transcendental experience is covered and we suffer. That's why when we have been conditioned for so long to do our will, we think we're in control, we're self-sufficient. That's why when we speak of serving God, what? It's like slavery for us. You know how we can transcend that? Through the process that is being given by the spiritual master. The holy names of God purifies our heart and uncover this covering of ignorance that has blinded us, that we can see with wisdom and understanding and experience the happiness and fulfillment wherein we can take shelter, we can direct our love. And that is an experiential experience when one comes in contact with the spiritual master. Meaning, you should experience it. I should experience it. How? By following the process. So I'll tell, when I was young, when I was in the younger years, I was reading a lot of, stories, and one story is like this. There's these two father and son, and because they have to go to the market to sell their wares, and in that case, they were bringing firewood, and to go to the market, they have to let the donkey, carry it. So while they're going to the market, a lot of people are just standing by there, having their good time, and they give opinions. They have opinions, with what they see. So when they pass by to this group of crowd, they heard that, look at this father and son, they're so cruel, They let the donkey carry the firewood, How cruel, How hard-hearted. And they, wow. People's opinion, telling them. And they want to, wow, no. So the father said, oh, why don't you carry the firewood, Why don't you carry the firewood? So the son is carrying the firewood now. And when they pass by again, the people tell, look at this father. He let his son carry the heavy load. And they put it on top of the donkey carry it. So so he got the firewood carried again, and when they pass by again, there's another opinion, Look at this son, he has no concern for his father. He let the father carry the firewood, So when they walk again, everybody's there have their opinion, and so they carried it together. And everybody's laughing. Look at this stupid father and son, There's the donkey. They can let the donkey carry it. So let's put it back to the donkey. And when they're walking, everybody's giving their opinion. And what they did, they tried to carry the donkey. And what happened? The donkey jumped. So I'm just telling this story. That is our situation. The problem we have is that the mind has been our master for so long. How to conquer the mind is through a process that will redirect the mind, purify the mind, and that process is the meditation, the chanting of the holy names, an activity that will purify the mind, draw away the mind from matter. So we can now redirect the mind in connection with what we're really searching. And when we understand, yes, I am spirit soul, I am a deeper energy from matter, but for so long I've been serving the mind. And I've a lot of master, so-called master, who gives me guidance. So the beauty and the benefit of having God or the spiritual master as our guide, we will only listen to one person. And that person brings us, helps us cross this ocean of misery, enter into the world of oasis because we're in this desert. And how is that? Because in a truest sense, we think we're so intelligent. In a truest sense, we're all blind. You know how blind? We use the faculty of our senses, the senses, to try to solve our problem by our own self. But because we're limited, and we're blind, we don't know what direction we'll be focusing. So when one comes in contact with the spiritual master, and especially if one is able to be initiated, he's given instruction. And those individuals who comes in contact with the bona fide spiritual master are given the opportunity to live a life of a disciple. To live a life of a disciple and follow the process. So when they approach the spiritual master for initiation, they're already living the life of a disciple. A disciple comes from the word discipline. Discipline. What to discipline? The spiritual master gives a prescription, a process. And then you take it, you follow it, then it becomes natural for you because that's our natural situation wherein our heart, our life is simply doing what is pleasing to doing the will of God. And we experience so much joy and happiness in being focused in that direction. So when we live the life of a disciple, even though we're not initiated, because initiation means the spiritual master gives you instruction, but he advises everyone to live the life of a disciple. Meaning you follow the process, so it's natural for you already that when you get initiated, you can easily do everything and what he instructs you. It's not hard anymore because you have been living that life. And it's centered around the chanting of the holy names and following certain rules and regulations. But don't think that the rules and regulation is the goal, No, the goal is to be situated in our true transcendental relationship with God. So we will discuss here what will separate us. It's about two things I like to discuss is this. Talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matter. Talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matter. So it entails also association. Who we associate. If you associate with devotees, their activities, you can check, you can see, oh, these are the devotees. These are those individuals who are trying to make effort, who are in a group centered around the glorification of Lord Krishna. And their focus and their meditation is about the transcendental pastimes and word of Lord Krishna as what has been spoken by Sukadev Goswami to Maharaj Pariksit, Srimad Bhagavatam, and the pastimes of Lord Krishna when he came here 5,000 years ago. And the reason he came is to establish religion and to give us this wisdom about our true transcendental nature so we can be sheltered and focused in one direction to do the will of the Supreme Person and make the choice. So he showed us everything, so we can now make a choice. The problem when we are servant of the mind, the choice we follow, we do, is about doing what the mind dictates us. So don't think spiritual life is, is a breeze that you go in, you join, I am with a group. No. But there is a process that is being given to us. Practice we follow. We have a hard time chanting, We have a hard time, So we're given this opportunity and this wisdom that we can associate with devotees who are congregationally chanting and who discuss about the eternal pastimes of the Supreme Person. Because the reason we are so much engrossed in this world, because of our association, because of what we hear, and it's centered around, about this body and my search for happiness in the wrong direction. And I find shelter in that. I like to hear things, focus around what I want in my life. But what you want in your life is in ignorance, you're not the body, and the people whom you associate are all talking about this world. They talk about the new cell phone, about the place, a place wherein you can go now because it's Christmas, it's winter, it's snowy in Canada, or, why don't we go to the Bahamas, to the tropical islands of the Philippines? But there's COVID time, you cannot just go. But some countries there, it's open. But if you come in contact with this wisdom, it's very easy to understand. You go to the beach, you just bask under the sun, but you look around. If you are able to associate with the wisdom coming from the spiritual master, coming from God, coming from the saintly person, and you are with people who are always glorifying the Supreme Person in his teachings and reminds you of the instruction of Krishna, that will be beneficial in our progress towards Lord Krishna, because a certain activity leads to a certain consciousness, and definitely the activities we've been doing for so long, that's the character we have developed. We have been covered. We have become gross materialists. And this body is the reason we're suffering. We identify with it because the body dies. We experience different suffering through the body, miseries caused by other living entities. And not only that, the anticipation, the longing for happiness, that is not really addressed. And if we address it in the wrong direction, what will happen is that we will never achieve it, because there is only one direction, and that direction is about the transcendental nature of our true natural position and function as eternally the loving servant of God. We are dependent. We are not in the truest sense, in absolute sense, self-sufficient. We need someone to take shelter. But when we are in ignorance of our true nature as eternally the loving servant of God, and we're in this illusion of trying to find happiness in this world, and we think we can hack it out and try to dominate material nature, then what will happen is still we will be servants, but servants of God, but experiencing the separation from life, because we are now associated with this dead body, and we identify with it and the suffering of this body. Just like my spiritual master gives example, like a fish out of water. We are not in our natural habitat. But we can be in that situation when we come in contact with God Himself, the spiritual master, who is the representative of God, who is the ambassador of God, and He teaches us how to be in that world, how to be situated in that loving relationship. So now we have this task. What is the task that we should do? We are faced with this problem, to follow the mind or to follow God. You follow the mind, then you become so engrossed. It's like building blocks. Follow the mind, you become anchored to this world. You become shackled because the medium for shelter, the medium for search for happiness is the entanglement of this world through the senses and through the mind. So how to purify, to be really understanding our true nature? God Himself comes as the supreme purifier. So the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the holy names of God, can purify the mind, redirect the mind. It purifies the desire in the mind. We can now see, what desire the desire in the mind, we can redirect it, It can become purified. And the mind can be our friend, subservient to our heart to do the will of God. So the science of Bhakti Yoga is about doing the will of God. Because for so long, we are trying to do our own will. And we try to ascend to God, to reach God by our own power. And there is a process wherein God, the Supreme Person, comes down and He Himself purifies us from all this misgiving and ignorance because He's the Supreme Purifier. And that is the instruction of the Spiritual Master, because they love us, they have compassion upon us, so they come. So the mercy of God comes through this personification of God's compassion, our Spiritual Master. He loves us. And then when we come in contact with Him, He teaches us how we can be sheltered, how we can enter the transcendental world that we've been reading in all the scripture about the pastimes of Lord Krishna, how to enter that world. Because now we have this opportunity to be guided by someone who loves the Supreme Person. And because if we follow Him, Lord Krishna will be very pleased. Will be very pleased. Because we are taking shelter of someone who is His confidential loving servant, a resident of the spiritual world. That's why in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and written by Rupa Goswami, we must be guided by someone who is a resident of that spiritual world, and that is the spiritual master. So back to the point. For so long, we've been following so many gurus, so many individuals who gives opinion. And those opinions are all relative, meaning not eternal, because it's not connected with what is eternal. It's all about what they see through the senses and alleviation of the burden that everybody is experiencing, this emptiness of the heart, this loneliness. And because they are so engrossed, they think that this loneliness and unhappiness can be, achieved and, experienced through being focused upon this world. Because that's their world. Just like the 3 prugs, there's these 4 prugs inside this deep well. They never know what's the outside world. They just all around them, and they give their opinion, about their world, this world of blindness, They're not really experiencing and understanding their true transcendental nature. So when the spiritual master comes, he teaches us about this absolute truth. First, he teaches us about our eternality, our position and function, and how to achieve that. He gives us a process, and the process, we have to do the work. It's not just I join, because, for example, many of us, you see, like my spiritual master gives this analogy, we read the pastimes of God, with his devotees. Oh, he's a pure devotee, he's a pure devotee. And he tells, he's a mango eater, he's a mango eater. But you're just there, looking. Oh, he's a mango eater, he's a mango eater. and you give, oh, he's a mango eater. He's so happy tasting that sweet mango, but you're not really eating that mango. It's an osmosis, you're outside that world. And coming in contact with the spiritual master, where the door is open to enter that world. That is transcendental because it's connected with our true transcendental nature. For so long we have been so engrossed, this is our world, just like the frogs inside the well. But we face so much problems every day that we find out that after sometimes or for so long, we begin to realize, is this, where am I heading? Where am I heading? During the younger years, your body is very strong, really passionate. But when time comes, when your body is old already, you'll be facing the inevitable. And you look back in your life. You look at your life, what have you done? What have you achieved? What have you gathered? What you have garnered, no? You're going to leave it behind. And you begin to think, no? Is there more to life than all of this? Just like when my spiritual master was giving an example of a person who is so poor, he's living, in the ghetto before, and now he's an actor. He's very rich. And then his advisor, that my point is advisor, his guide, the manager, to become famous, to earn more money. This is life, Prince, Chico the Prince, He has these activities of doing movies, He's an actor. He's very rich. You know what he did? After achieving, the teacher or the guru or the manager, look, you're on the top. You have everything. What more can you want, And then Chico Priest got a gun and he committed suicide. Because he thinks, is this more, Because the burden, the separation from the source of happiness will be a lonely world, an empty world. And by nature, we are joyful. And when we're ignorant of this true transcendental truth, we will be focusing and hearing from all those dead people who are blind like the frogs inside the well. Just like we can see through all those who tried to direct their search for happiness through fame, wealth and everything, conquering countries, everything. They come to the point wherein they're so miserable that they want to forget what they have achieved. They're living in a world, they even in Christmas, there's this Christmas dance where everybody is wearing masks, like a masquerade, Yeah. Everybody's, in this masquerade, Batman, Superman, Elvis Presley, or those rich people, because they have not achieved those goals, they just make believe, So it's a masquerade. And in their heart, they long to have what these people have. But look at all the lives of these people who died drunk, who died, committed suicide. They have all the things that the mind dictates us to have. It's about wealth. Because when you have wealth, you have power, you have control. And they're very unhappy and empty. Look at the lives of those individuals who focus upon the labels of the body. What are the labels? Fame. I'm a big man, I'm a big man, I'm popular. I can sing songs that really, high pitch. The greatest love of all. If it's really love, what's happening to you, she's around with people and she cannot find what is love, what love is. She cannot find what love is. A relationship. Because everybody is dealing or looking in the wrong direction. They deal with her and relate with her simply engrossment. They're thinking she's the body and the medium for happiness is sensual enjoyment. And she's very, very unhappy and frustrated. She does, because by nature we will be looking for someone to love. And that person is God. Not all this jerk around, trying to portray, this masquerade they live, that they're happy. Look at their life. So let's be real, Let's not talk about mystery or everything. So it begins with hearing what you hear. So the first step in the right direction is to hear from God. And that person who should be hearing is the representative of God, the spiritual master. We have discussed already previously about the qualification of the spiritual master, but because time is running out, then we can discuss more about it in connection with this. So the reason we discuss this is not to feel sanctimonious or feeling holier than others or in the right path, and we think, they're not devotees or what. It's not that. It's about looking at ourselves if we're making progress in the right direction. We can check in ourselves. We don't need to make believe. We don't need to make believe. We should be following the process. So we will not be lost. The process is, there's a mango eater and he gives us the mango. The mango is all around, taste the mango. Meaning you have to make an effort to get that mango, take the peeling and eat the mango. It's not that somebody tells you, this honey, is very sweet, and just you look. Sweet honey, and you never tasted that honey. So my point is this. We have to follow the process. Take the walk. Because by nature, we will always be active. That's one quality of the soul, activity. The question now, what activities will we do? Will it be the direction of the mind or the direction of God? Are we able to come to the point to redirect the mind, to be in harmony with our true nature as eternally the loving servant of God? Our happiness and search for love is about the Supreme Person, life for life. But in the material, in ignorance, we're looking for a misdirection of life focused upon the gross body. That's why you see the perversion. They say, I love you. And what is the basis? What are the activities they do when they talk about love? It's about sexual contact. That is not love. Love is what is natural for all of us. By nature, the living entity, all of us, we're gentle by nature. You're very sweet. You're very kind. Because that quality that God has. We have that. But because we are minute, we have also the freedom to choose what to do. So make the right choice. That is transcendental and absolute. It's about our eternal, transcendental nature and position that we are eternally the loving servant of God. And take shelter of God. And because we have made the decision to do our own will and become covered by this ignorance under the subjugation of material energy, the three modes of material energy, we must transcend that. And the person we should be following is someone who has no material consideration. Meaning what he's teaching, he's living it. He's a person who teaches by example. And we follow that person, then that person can guide us enter that world. Because he's a mango eater. He eats mango. And us, looking at outside, So the first point, that one thing is what we hear. And hearing means association. We must have this association because the teachings of the spiritual master will be the foundation of our connection with the will of God. With the will of God. That's what Jesus Christ is telling us. Summa total. Look, his life. That's what he's telling us. But look at ourselves. Am I achieving that goal? It's achievable. Because that's our true eternal transcendental nature, to be loving God. So we must have someone who is in that world, who is a living example in this world, this time and space, who can guide us. And that is a bona fide spiritual master. And how to come in contact with such a person? God Himself. And now we have this opportunity. That's why I like to read something to the practitioners, all of us. Ada Yasha Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Yasha Prasadam Nagatituto Pi Dayam Stubam Yashastri Sanyam. By the mercy of the spiritual master, read. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Lord Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. But if we are so contaminated, we think that advancement is about a position, joining the group. No. What is that advancement when we come in contact with the spiritual master in Krishna? We are able to advance and direct our life to taste that love, to be resituated in our natural, transcendental activities of rendering service to God, doing His will, because that is the will of God. Serve me, love me. That is the will of Lord Jesus Christ, His life. So when we come in contact with God, it's not about fear. It's not about damnation, It is God's mercy. So without the grace of the spiritual master, what is His grace? It's not joining. He gives us an instruction. He gives His heart, His lives, His whole focus. Loving Krishna. And because we are connected with the Supreme Person, He loves us. He gives us God's compassion with the wisdom so we can connect ourselves in that world. That's why we offer obeisances to the representative of God 3 times a day. You should be, when you do japa, you remember the spiritual master. Not someone who will damn you, It's not that. Because he is a person who you can anchor your heart through his instruction. And instruction is completely transcendental to the direction that we have been so much engrossed following the dictates of the mind. And when we follow the spiritual master, we have now God directing our life, our whole being in that world of happiness. And that can be achieved if we take the walk, we take the choice. And the mind, advising us can be stopped. Because the God Himself, the Supreme Person, the Supreme Purifier, what we're longing for when we come in contact with what is inseparable from God, His pure loving servant. What is inseparable from God? God's love. A relationship. That's what spiritual life all about. That's why we're so unhappy, because we are alone. We are alone. With this ignorance, we're thinking, I am self-sufficient, I am all alone, I will do what I want. No. The science we follow is to be in harmony with God's will. The source of happiness, our eternal friend. Yeah? So we can continue this study program. So I like to point out something. Association and the sound we hear. So, God is a supreme purifier. So if you come in contact with those who are glorifying God, we will become purified from these encumbrances, from the ignorance, because God Himself will purify us. We become dependent upon the supreme purifier. And what dependency? His love. Our affection can now be satisfied when we take shelter of Him. That's what we should be directing our lives. Affection, doing the will of God. So that is science our spiritual master is teaching. We'll continue tomorrow, okay? Haribol Namaste.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda. Siddhaswarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate
Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Mohana Krsna
Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayanya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayanya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radharara Shri Vasudeva Gauranga Krishna Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana 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 Jaya Jaya Guru Jaya Jaya Gauranga Jaya Jaya Guru Jaya Jaya Gauranga Jaya Jaya Shri Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Shri Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namaste Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate